Off and running.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, good.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be here. I've got a guest author with me today, Lorraine Carey. Lorraine and I have known each other for quite a few years. She's an amazing author. We had the opportunity to meet in Cayman. She attended one of my CayWriters in-person meetings, and we just hit it off, and we've been friends ever since. So welcome, Lorraine. I'll actually let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about sort of what she writes, and take it away, Lorraine.
Thanks, Elke. Yeah, it's been a great relationship. And I have to start, I was saying, without Elke, I met Elke in the Caymans. And when she had formed CayWriters group, which really was the springboard for my whole writing career. Without her, I don't know what I would have done. So anyway, I'm going to backtrack a little bit what started my writing career. It was 2009, which was a really bad year. It was a dark year for me. I was living in California, and I lost both my mom and my dad. We lost other members of the family. I lost my teaching job due to California was doing all these job cuts. My husband lost his job.
Wow.
So he put his resume out in the internet. And somebody in Grand Cayman found it, and we went for an interview and landed on Grand Cayman. So during that time, I was still in the grieving process, and so I wrote a kind of like a bio, a short novella, a memoir, and it was called Losing Ground, and it was about. Basically, it was a release for me. It was therapy about, what I went through with, losing my parents.
Yeah.
And I ended up pulling that book because I realized that no one's going to be interested. This book was a release for me. So I ended up pulling it. But at that time, I joined CayWriters, which was such a blessing to me because it introduced me to other writers, and we had meetings. And, there were even times when, and Elke will remember, I would call her and say, hey, let's meet at Paperman's Coffee Shop. Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I wasn't very tech savvy, and she was helping me with social media. And so that's how I got my writing started.
Yeah.
So from there, Cayman was the perfect place. I mean, you're on a tropical island. I mean, how can you not get inspired, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had all these, we had moved and lived in a lot of places throughout the United States. And I had a lot of paranormal experiences in my life since childhood. And if I go into that in depth, that's going to be another paranormal show. And here for children here.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started to write in Cayman, my Mysteries of the Red Coyote Inn. And I wanted to write for, and my target audience was young adult, basically middle grade, because being a teacher, working with those boys, boys who absolutely hated reading.
Yeah.
And I think they hated the type of literature that, they had to read. And they always wanted to hear spooky stories. My students always wanted me to tell me a spooky story. Yeah. In fact, when I was teaching in Arizona, one of the male teachers, instead of calling me Mrs. Carey, called me Mrs. Scary. I used to say to my students, you're all going to get me in trouble because I'm telling you guys all these stories. We're going to go home and I'm going to get phone calls. So anyway, Mysteries of the Red Coyote Inn was my first middle grade to young adult, and it takes place in Arizona around the mysterious Superstition Mountains.
I remember I read that one. It's great.
I still love it. And it's about a boy hero. So I did a sequel. That was book one. Out of the Ashes was the sequel. And, I not only wanted to write to inspire boys to read, but I wanted to give good role models, and I wanted to teach morals and spirituality.
Yeah.
And like all of my books are based on a fraction of something that happened in my life.
Yeah.
And it was a paranormal event. So wrote that one. And then I went on to, I think the next one was I think it was the last Vestal Virgin. I'm trying to think it was the last Vestal. Oh no, it was Jonathan's locket.
I was just going to say Jonathan's locket, because I love that story.
Oh my God, I know. And it was Bella again. It was, and I'm thinking of expanding that. That won an award, and it also won in the it was in a media film contest. It was like in the top 10.
Yeah.
And I think, oh my God, I can just see this in a CGI Pixar film.
Absolutely.
And what inspired me was going out and sitting and thinking about the original shipwreck of the 10 sails on the island.
Yeah.
So that was the inspiration for that one. And then I did the big thing was when I went to Rome, I had an experience in Rome and in Pompeii, and I wrote The Last Vestal Virgin, which is another favorite of mine, which is not more middle grade, more young adult.
Yeah, definitely.
More young adult. And then I went into Beloved Sacrifice, which was YA into adult.
Right.
And then I thought, I'm gonna start writing for adults. You know? I'm gonna try and that from there, I went into some, adult themes. And that's where I am now, there. And I have to sidestep and say, one journey of my life took me. I met R.A. Robbins, Becky Robbins was my friend.
I remember.
We did together, fabulous. I was reading, she was writing some really hilarious redneck jokes. And I read them online and I thought, oh my God, this girl is hilarious. I've got to meet her. She's a comedian. We teamed up together. And we wrote 2 erotica books and had a blast doing it. I don't know if I'll ever do another erotica, but I'm going to tell you one thing. One thing I learned from writing those erotica books helped me in my future books with writing those steamy love scenes.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, pretty much, like I said, that's where my writing journey started off to be therapy.
Right.
And to inspire young readers. And now I'm doing it because it's a passion now.
Right. And that's fantastic. You've had an amazing journey, and just seeing how you've progressed online has just been amazing. And just want to just say kudos. I'm just so proud of how far you've come. So.
Well, when you have a good teacher and like you, and good inspiration, it's not hard. And I'm going to tell you, people never forget. And I tell Elke all the time, I will never forget those times that she was there for me. So
yeah. And it was my pleasure. You were amazing to work with. So
I miss those days at Paperman's.
Yeah, so do I. I have to say,
our meetings at Books and Books was terrific.
Yeah, I do miss those as well too. I really do. I miss everybody so much in Cayman. So now you mentioned that you had a lot of unexplained events. Can you tell me maybe about, and you mentioned that 1 or 2 have influenced your books. Can you tell me about maybe one event specifically that really just was like, I have to write about this. I have to put it in my books?
Yes, because if we don't want to be here till tomorrow, so I'll tell you about one of the amazing ones. Okay. So let's go back to Rome. My husband and I wanted to travel to Pacentro. That is where my mom was Italian, and her family hailed from this beautiful, medieval thousands-year-old village. So my husband surprised me for one anniversary. He says, "Okay, we're going to go to Pacentro, but we're going to go first, and we'll go to Pacentro." So Rome was amazing, and we went to see, the Vestal Virgins were actually a cult, during Rome.
Right.
And they had various duties. They kept records, and they were. Rome had the belief that they lit the eternal flame. There was a flame.
Right.
That in this temple, that if the flame went out, Rome would go down.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they were virgins, and it was an honor to be a Vestal Virgin. I mean, you
Right.
had to keep your virginity until you were released, you know.
Right.
So anyway, we visited the ruins of the Vestal Temple. There's a big one in Rome.
Yeah.
But then we went on to Pompeii, and it was in Pompeii, there was another house of the Vestal Virgins. And my husband was getting tired. It was really hot. He goes, you go in. He goes, it doesn't look like it's anything that he wanted to see. He goes, you go in. Go, yeah, I'm going in.
Yeah.
So there was a pedestal in there, like a stump, like a concrete stump.
Right.
And it didn't say don't touch. I'm a toucher. I got to touch everything. I touch the wall.
Oh, yeah.
I got to touch the
Yeah.
So I put my hand out, right? I think it was my right hand. And I put my hand on the pedestal, and all of a sudden, electrical, like a force, just like I was shocked, went my fingers all the way up to my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I came out and I told my husband, I said, "Oh my God, I got shocked." He goes, "How could you shock? There's nothing electrical in there."
Yeah.
And I said, I touched the stone. I touched his head. He goes, "Take some deep breaths. You're going to be fine."
Yeah.
Well, that particular feeling of tingling lasted 4 hours.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so I came out of that. You know, we went back to the hotel. I did some notes, and I knew. I said, okay, I'm being channeled by one of the Vestal Virgins, and I'm going to write a story. It's going to be, you know, a fictional tale,
right?
But I'm going to honor them. One of them is reaching out. I didn't know which one. So thus came my story, The Last Vestal Virgin.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that, because that's sort of, I mean, we always get story ideas from the things around us and what we see, what we hear, the people we engage with. And, you know, one of those things is also locations. That's something sometimes we don't always think about, or just an experience that we have. We think, it's a person, or, you know, it's just a place. But it's just situations like that can just spark a story, and that's so wonderful. And that was a great book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it.
And you're really good about location, because, you know, there was something there. There was something there, you know, environmentally that, you know, that sparked me, and I will never forget that feeling. And that's another YA book, and it's a novella, you know. And I a lot of times I think, well, I'm going to go back and I'm going to redo it, but then I think, nope, I'm going to leave it like it is.
Leave it like it is.
Leave it like it is. Don't leave it alone.
Absolutely. There's other stories that are waiting to be told. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, now you've published in audiobooks, which I think is amazing. That's a step that I've been sort of on the fence of making. And I'd love to hear sort of what made you decide to take that leap, and how you actually got from, you know, thinking about it to actually making it happen.
Well, I'll be real honest with you. It really wasn't a thought. It wasn't one of my thoughts. But, you know, I work with a publishing company called Golden Box Books Publishing. Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't.
And the woman that runs it, her name is Elke Feuer. She's fabulous. And because I'm techno dummy here and don't.
I remember.
He had contacted me. She does all my, you know, she does my editing and my formatting, my, you know, everything, puts my books, puts them up on Amazon, yada, yada.
Right.
And she said, you know, she goes, she had some books that were on audio. And she said, I got to tell you, Lorraine, she goes, audio is the way to go. People are busy now. They don't want to read. They're on the go. They want to listen.
Absolutely.
But she said, let's try one and see how it goes. So I said, well, I don't know how to do this. I don't, you know, what do I do? What do I do? Do I take So I sent her the Word document, the original Word document to the book, and she uploaded it to ACX. And if you search for, there's narrators out there. Right. And as soon as they see that there's a book there, they'll audition. And you send like a chapter or two, and then you audition and you listen to see. And, you know, the interesting thing is, you really got to pick the person that's the right fit. You do. So important. Yeah. And you learn, and you don't pick the first one right away. You kind of wait, you know, to see, okay, whose voice. And here's another thing that really I didn't think about. Okay. This is really big for people that are out there that are thinking about audiobooks. My trilogy, my recent trilogy, The Women of the Willowwood, which is a pagan story about these like cultish. They're good. They're good witches.
Right.
But the thing is, they're all Hispanic. And this story refers, it's from New Mexico. So there's a lot of terminology that is a Hispanic dialect.
Right.
So the first person that read it was getting all the pronunciations wrong. You know, the name of the roads, you know. So what I had to do, because this is one that I chose to go with, I had to record how to pronounce the names.
Yeah.
And send it to her. But in hindsight, when I posted that book, I should have said, okay, need to be familiar with this sort of dialect.
Yeah. And that's amazing that you say that, because that's one of the reasons why I haven't taken that leap myself, is because, you know, 3 books in my series, they're people with a Caymanian accent. So, and not everybody can do that.
No.
And so I was sort of debating on whether I wanted to read it myself or, you know, but that's a good point. Maybe just put that out there and just, you know, you might get lucky and see if something happens. But that's a really good point. It's something that you have to take into consideration for sure. Because
you do.
Because they have to be able to enunciate and just understand how it's supposed to go, and their tone of voice, because I know I love audiobooks and I listen to them, and there's some that I can't listen to because their voice just grates me and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't listen to this. So it's a really important to like what you said, is just to be not necessarily go with the first one, is just, you know, do they fit, does their voice fit your story, can they actually do it? So that's a great tip right there. Thank you for that.
Yes, and like I said, you know, this last girl that I have that did The Good Teacher, and she didn't do The Good Teacher. She did the second one, On Borrowed Time, and now she's doing my final trilogy, Last Right, and she's doing the, you know, where you change. She's doing the character inflection, because some readers will read straight, some will do character inflection.
Yeah.
And I think it depends what you want. You know, you have to decide what you want. Do you want character inflection? But I'm going to look into narrating them myself. And you talk about maybe you should do the one for the Canadian.
I'm thinking about doing that, because my other book is actually traditionally published, so I don't really have that option to do that one. Yes. And then the other ones, they're without a doubt, I would have to do them myself.
Would be awesome. You would be amazing.
I would love to do it.
Lesson learned on that. Lesson learned on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, what's the best writing advice you received and that you still go back to whenever, you know, you're struggling, or whenever, just advice in general, writing advice? Because I think we all have that one tip that kind of sticks with us, and we think, you know, or, you know, we just regurgitate it to remind ourselves, you know, why we got into it, why we write. So what's been the best writing advice you've received that still sticks with you today?
Well, you know, there's a couple things, you know, and one of the things is, you know, when I'm writing, I get writer's block. And a lot of authors say, oh, there's no such thing as writer's block. Well, for me, there is. I mean, maybe there isn't for you, but me. So somebody told me, just take a break, break from it. And this was one of my male author friends. He said, start to watch syndicated shows, start to watch movies, pay attention to character development, watch, you know, if you write the paranormal, watch some paranormal shows. So, you know, I started watching a lot of Netflix and Hulu, and it just kind of got me pumped up, you know, like, oh, that's good writing. Now I'm inspired. I'm going to go write my book. So that's one of the tips. Another thing, you know, and I really think, is to just read. Take a break and read a couple books.
Yeah, I think that really helps, because I think as writers, we don't read the way traditionally people read. We look at like the sentence structure, how the characters are developing, their journey. We really dissect a book when we read it. We do read for the joy of reading, but there's still another level that's going on there. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you're so you're
it's so important. Yes, and that's why it's so
that's what I've been doing. You know, I as I told you, Elke knows I'm having a writer's block right now with this current one that I'm on. So I I've been reading and I've been watching maybe too much Netflix and Hulu. But anyway, like for one instance, like I'm watching a show. It's a romance show. It's on Netflix. And I've been watching it. And one of my scenes that I'm writing in this book is a romance scene. And one of the scenes from the TV show, threw me back. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I could write something like this.
Right.
So, that really helps.
No, that's fantastic advice for sure. And while we're on the subject of advice, what advice would you offer to any writer who is looking to not just write a book, but actually build a career out of it, which is pretty much what you've done and are doing?
Probably it would be what I did when back with CayWriters. I think you can't go out there alone. You've got to have a support group. And I was fortunate enough, I know now with COVID and everything is so changed.
Right.
I was so fortunate, we had a small group of people that we helped each other, we talked. I would say if you're just starting out, you need to really find someone that's going to be there for you, that's honest, that's going to give you honest feedback.
Yeah.
And it's an interchangeable thing that, you're going to also help them.
Right.
So put it out there. I mean, on Facebook, there's so many self-help groups on Facebook that you could get into. Get into one of those. And things are opening up now. Now, I know wherever people live, if you go on meetup.com, you can find, and I found one here in St. Petersburg. And I went, but another story, that ended up tragically, but I just didn't vibe with people. But find something online where you can share, share your work, and you can get feedback and you could get advice.
Yes.
So get and build a nice network, supportive network. That really helped me.
Yeah, and I think that's so important as well, too, especially if you're pursuing this and your family or friends maybe don't understand or they're not really supportive. And that's why connecting with other like-minded writers is so important, because it can be really discouraging when, you're trying to do it on your own and you don't have friends and family who are supporting you, and it just feels like, why am I even bothering to do this? Or you feel like you have to do it alone. And the truth is you really don't. There's a lot, like you said, there's groups, there's lots of opportunities. Even with COVID, there's online opportunities for you to connect with other people. And I think that that's when a lot of writers, myself, grow as individual, because when you're around people who've already been there, done that, you learn so much from them. It's amazing. It really saves you. And you just meet, I think, like you and you just meet some amazing people. I have people that I've met online, like, oh my gosh, like 2007 that I still connect with and I'm still collaborating with. And, those are friendships that, wouldn't have happened if I hadn't reached out. And yes, we're authors, but, you also build great relationships. I mean, I love our talks.
I know. I mean, there's people come into your life for certain reasons, but like I said, you just can't sit back and say, "Oh, I'm going to wait to find." You have to put yourself out there.
Yes, I agree.
And you have to find, you've got to find someone that also needs support from you too. So it's an interchangeable thing. It's an exchange. So.
Yes. No, absolutely, because it's just a way that you're supporting each other, and it's not just one-sided. That's really important as well, too.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your all your great advice, Lorraine. And can you tell us sort of where people can find you and your books?
Actually, everything is on Amazon. I do have an author Facebook page, and it's called If you type in Story Spirit for You. I'm on Facebook, but all my books are on Amazon. My website, I took my old website down.
I noticed that.
I'm having a new one made. So
yeah. Sometimes you just need to give that one a facelift.
Yeah, it's just I was having issues. The plugs, the end plugs were going bad, and GoDaddy, I was having issues with the server. So so there'll be a new one, but everything is on Amazon. Everything is on Amazon.
No, and if you love, I just want to add, if you love paranormal, if you love, YA, or if you have middle grade boys who, they don't necessarily enjoy reading, I highly recommend Lorraine's books. They're
Thank
fantastic.
you,
So for sure.
Elsie.
No,
Thank
absolutely.
you. I'm
You're
humbled.
welcome.
Thank you.
And it's so wonderful to finally make this happen. Yay!
Well,
So
I'm
thank
gonna,
you.
I'm gonna tell everybody too. Elke is just a dynamic person. She has a dynamic personality, and if nobody can, if she can't inspire you, nobody can.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me on. And like I said, listeners who are out there, if you're thinking about writing a book, this is the lady to go to.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Lorraine.
Elke.
Thank you so much for being a guest, and I will definitely see you online at some point.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye.
Ciao. Ciao.